A big hand for him, and now request him to attend the meeting.
Friends, in the next 1.5 hours, I will share with you my views on property-related matters, the intricacies connected with matters related to cooperative societies. The first topic is the selection of developer when a cooperative society is going for redevelopment. Today, we have so many activists. If you want to make 1 rupee phone call, there is a very active and vibrant institution TRAI of the government which regulates this 1 rupee phone call. But what happens when you come to real estate? It is not an exaggeration, but practically every cooperative societies in Bombay, the accumulated value would easily be in a few crores. And sadly, there is literally no regulation as far as the real estate laws are concerned, is my view. One view for the same could be that in practically every political party, builder is at the helm of the affairs and is able to manage the things. It is not an exaggeration to state that 90% of the cooperative societies in Bombay do not have the conveyance in their favor, in spite of paying so much rupees to the flat, to the builders. Reason being, the organized lobby of builders is there which is able to control it. If one asks any student of law, it is an open secret that builder has got no right to sell open car parking, stilt parking, open terrace. But when you look at the ground realities, there will not be a percentage worth mentioning where these things are not sold. And what does the law stipulate? Such an offense, if there is literally any penalty, then everyone would like to evade the law. This could be one of the reasons why people in the real estate are not much bothered about the laws. The law is toothless. As usual, our government authorities come up with the plea, they don't have staff, they don't have infrastructure. What I always have in mind is, if there is a will, there is always a way. One does not require big amount of people to supervise the thing. Repeatedly, we have been suggesting to the government authorities, most of your problems can be solved in a fraction of a second if you have the will. And we have substantiated all these things with examples. Point number 1, if a builder is constructing a building, why are you allowing him to sell the entire building in toto? Frame a law that at least 10% of the property cannot be sold by him till he obtains the building completion certificate and passes the title to the legal entity, which is the cooperative society. You make most of these offenses non-bailable on the builder. Automatically, the tendency to do a wrongful act will minimize. We had 37I, which acted on the parties to ensure that the correct market price is reflected in the agreement, which in turn was leading to more accumulation of taxes in the nature of income tax, stamp duty, etc. But one fine day we find that this 37I thing has been scrapped. It was fetching enormous revenues to the government, but somehow, for reasons best known, it has been scrapped. Now coming to the aspect of redevelopment, I would advise the society to have multiple teams. And my first word of caution to the flat purchasers is, don't trust your committee or the builder blindly. When you are talking with your secretary, with your builder, the prospective builders, don't be impressed by the submissions, the promises, because many times we have seen that the managing committee members are nothing but graceful estate agents acting for the builders. So you should be very vigilant. And how you have to play a role, let me share this thing with a practical example. Say you form 4-5 teams amongst yourself. Builder A will come, you should plan out your things. Just as a lady, when she prepares food, she uses extensively masalas to make the food delicious. Same way, when you are going for redevelopment, when you have multiple team, builder A is coming and say Mr. X is negotiating with builder A. So informal way, all of you have to give more importance to Mr. X when builder A is coming, giving him an impression that Mr. X is the whole and soul as far as this building is concerned. Questions should be put up in such a manner that 90% are siding with Mr. X, and as usual we should keep some pockets where they will ask irritating questions to the builders so that the firmness is not compromised. Here, when you go for redevelopment, one of your team should consist of senior ladies who should make it a point to the builder, stating that it is the gents who are going out of house, they don't stay in house. We are staying in house. And whatever may be the other commercial terms and conditions which you are having for redevelopment, we will not interfere there. But one condition you will have to accept, of course, and that is about the toilet, you have to keep sufficient space for storage. The idea behind this is 6.5 feet is the normal height kept at the toilet level for a person to stand, and above that if you keep some 3.5 spaces area, so you will get a clear-cut height of 10 feet. You may call it emotional blackmail, but this is the need of the day. And believe me, with the passage of time, BMC's policies have changed. We had a door and above it was the window. Now that window has literally has gone away from the municipal plans. So the height factor is very important, and according to me, you should never compromise on this height factor for the sake of a few rupees. Obviously, when you go for redevelopment, you will be visiting the sites of the builder. Many people may be the person may be a contractor there, but he will say that I have constructed the building. So the documentation which is asked is also vital, and that should include a format, because architects also to some extent, they try to help the builders. Even our professional advocates try to help the builders. So you should frame the rules in such a way that it is literally difficult for them to escape from the various clauses. For example, the allotment form, the tender form which is being made, should be specific, mentioning the details of the proposal submitted by the builder, where he has worked, the number of contracts, the date on which he submitted the tender, the date on which the tender was approved, the date on which he executed the agreement, the date on which he got the development agreement and the individual agreements registered, the date on which occupation certificate was received, the date on which building completion certificate is received, and the details of the litigation. And they should be told to substantiate the same with documentary evidence of the same. The reason behind the same is many times they will come up with so many things that I have done this, but most of these details they won't be having. Apart from the same, what is of importance is the track record of the builder, his financial capabilities. There have been instances where buildings have been demolished more than 5 years ago, and even rent is not being paid by the builder. Property, for constructing a property, 70% of the cost is towards land, which belongs to the society. If you look at the overall assessment, 70% cost is towards land. So builder is investing a very negligible amount in the property, and he is trying to get all the rights by power of attorney. Always have one clause in the power of attorney stating that in the event there is any violation of the terms and conditions of the agreement, the society should be in a position to terminate the power of attorney and the agreement. Builder may say for arbitrator, but friends, let me share with you, normally arbitrators are more lenient to the developers, which is known in quite a few cases. What I would like to say is, you have to make the agreement very strong. Examples of making the agreement strong is whatever clauses are in your favor, always begin it with notwithstanding anything contained to the contrary. In the eyes of law, notwithstanding anything contained to the contrary has a very big upper hand. Similarly, if there is litigation, let the litigation be done through the court. And if you are compelled that no, you should have an arbitrator for some reason, let the arbitrator be a retired judge of a court, and all expenses of the arbitrator should solely be borne by the developer. These type of clauses should be there. As far as development is concerned, when you are talking with the developer, you have to make a few things very clear to him. That is, all expenses directly and or indirectly connected with redevelopment should be borne by him. Many areas are grey areas like service tax, VAT, works contract tax, income tax. You are going to retain the property. Builder is a visiting faculty in the life of the building. He is with you for a year or 2 or 3 years maximum. And thereafter, all liabilities, lock, stock and barrel are going to come on you. So definitely you have to be more cautious while dealing with builders. And this type of clauses are a must. If you want a good play for redevelopment, have the system of shortlisting from say 16 to 8, 8 to 4, 4 to 2. The reason behind the same is these 16 people who may have taken your tender forms, they will themselves give you a few tips which you may not be aware of, and that will help you increase your bargaining power. When a property is to be developed, the first paper which requires to be studied is, of course, the conveyance factor is there, that I will come a bit later, but first is the feasibility report. Feasibility report will give you an idea as regards the quantum of FSI benefits available, the quantum of investments that will be made, the quantum of gain that will arise to you, and what you can demand. Your demand should be reasonable in a way that builder is able to earn reasonable amount and your work will go as per deadlines. Here you have to have the bar charts which will specify in detail a few questions, will specify in detail the phase with which development will proceed. Normally, I will complete the same within 2 years, so no questions have to be asked for 2 years. But if the initial process is itself delayed, there is bound to be a subsequent delay. And your approach while talking to the builder, a particular work is to be completed. If he is not completing the work as per that stage, then what? Say your target is 2 years you have given him. If he does not complete the work in 2 years, then what? He may say levy a penalty. Next question should follow. Okay, we levy a penalty for 3 months. Then what? Coming on the point of penalty, they will glorify the amount, say make it 20,000 per month, 1 lakh per month. Make these penalty amounts linked to per member, because then that amount will automatically become small. And ultimately, it is the flat purchaser who is suffering. So that way, you should be cautious. And of course, you should have a good team of professionals, because many times cheap is costly and costly is cheap. If there is a leakage, a contractor is appointed, that repairs may cost 100 rupees, but that plugging that leakage, that removal of the tiles and other labors may cost 5,000 or more rupees. So this will definitely have a vital aspect to the cost. As I was mentioning, is the various terms particular to redevelopment. One of the things there is permission from the registrar. 3rd January 2009, a circular is issued and permission has to be obtained from the registrar. Legally speaking, if you ask me, High Court has made a categorical statement in one of the judgments in the case of Versova Harsha Cooperative Housing Society that no permission of the registrar is required. It is merely a matter of formality. But the ground realities are different. If the speed money is not given to the registrar, we know what will happen. They will always talk in terms of bylaws, rules, regulations. And my view is many times, what is bylaw? It is just by to the law. We talk as a secretary, as per bylaw number so and so can happen. Try to talk these bylaws in front of a person owning a beer bar or a hotel, and they will show you what that bylaw is. They won't talk of bylaw, they will only show you what that bylaw is. And members will say, "Bylaw sarka manus hai amcha secretary." That happens repeatedly in cooperative society. Legally speaking, Supreme Court has also categorically stated that bylaws do not have the force of law. There may be quite a few chartered accountants present in this house, and they will agree with me that so many mistakes are there in the bylaws. One of the bylaws in the last bylaw was that you have to obtain income tax permissions, which has been scrapped more than 10 years ago. Some of the bylaws drafted by our intelligent officers are such that can make you laugh. First and foremost, no one wants to be a managing committee member. For God willing or unwilling, whatever you may call it, you happen to be a managing committee member. So your family members are going to give you a good amount of bouquets with good dialogues 24/7. You go and listen to your members, and 99% of the time, they are going to abuse you. Look at the facts. You are supposed to, like a criminal, to give an indemnity bond to the office of the Registrar of Cooperative Societies, that jointly and severally you are liable for your various acts of omission and commission. Nothing productive is achieved by this bylaw. Cooperative department themselves have realized this particular thing, and in 2003 they have submitted a proposal to the department that please scrap this thing. But as usual, cooperative department does not have a lobby. Flat purchasers do not have a lobby, so that is gathering some dust in some corners of Mantralaya. There is another law which says that supposing you are handling the cash of the society, you have to give security to the society. What nonsense. You are staying there, you are rendering honorary services, and it is expected that you are likely to run away with the money of the society, so you have to give some security. The third bylaw, which our intelligent officers have now woken up, and they say that you are expected to ensure that there are no child laborers in the building. The secretary is not able to solve his own problems. He is literally at the receiving end of members. And in a cooperative society, there may be so many child laborers. The chances are managing committee members themselves are employing child laborers. And he is supposed to report this to the police and the Labour Welfare Board and voluntary organizations and whatnot. So, if you strictly go for these bylaws, you will make a joker of yourself, is my personal view. So very conveniently, you will find glaring examples of violation. You must have gone through so many posh areas, and you will find that though the limit is 25,000, the maximum amount that can be taken at the time of transfer of flat. In reality, there are 25 lakhs rupees are also taken in some good areas, which is an open secret. Look at JVPD. A flat purchaser there has to pay money to the society to get NOC for redevelopment. Second stage comes when the flat is being sold after being constructed. Again, you have to pay money for each transfer. And the association which is handling this each individual plot will also demand money from you. So at the end of the day, cooperative society's aim is 25,000 is the limit. But it is common knowledge that at times more than 25 lakhs rupees are demanded in posh areas at the time of transfer of bungalows, etc. So you will find glaring examples of violation of the bylaws on quite a few occasions. These are some of the details which I mentioned about when you are going for the redevelopment. Financial implications is also very important. We have seen many people submitting offers with share capital of hardly 25,000 and 50,000 in a limited company, and they expect to take properties and projects in crores of rupees. So that requires a detailed study by a professional person who is well versed in finance, so that at least a reasonable amount of funds are available with him to check the same. Normally builders take loan on the property, and that should be strictly prohibited. Definitely a new flat purchaser may take a loan, but builder should not be allowed to take a loan on the property which he is developing. What happens is banks, etc. have got a good financial network and a good team, and they can easily put you in trouble if you have permitted the builder to take loan against the property. There are ample instances of the builders running away midway if the project is not feasible. Unless and until the building completion certificate is not obtained, you should not permit the builder to sell 10% of the total constructed area or at least 2 flats, so that till the last day it is ensured indirectly that he attends to your complaint. Sometimes the work is not done up to the expectations. So when you have this guarantee, it can be of a help. Normally, what we call in real estate leakage guarantee means there is a guarantee that leakage is assured. On other dialogues, carpet area, built up area, super built up area, saleable area, super built up deluxe. All these terms are invented by the builders with the only object of reducing your area, demanding more price. So don't get carried away. Insist upon him a certificate as regards the carpet area of the flat that is being promised. We are looking in terms of the sand and this Antule cement, and today the proper quality sand is not available. So whatever buildings constructions are taking place, you should be internally, mentally prepared that quite a few amount will have to be paid for repairs of those flats. If you happen to know some structural engineer and you are approaching him in a friendly way, he will tell you these things. But when you approach him through the builder, the reply could be different because that the business interest is involved in the same. Here, I would like to emphasize a few things. Normally, recorder pens are there. Please make extensive use of the same when you go to a builder's office, because when you are going to his office, he is having the CCTV things. Wherever he wants to bind you, he has got ways and means of binding you. So whenever you are going, whether it is for sale or anything or any such meetings, please use the latest technologies. Sometimes it will help you a lot. Whether it helps you or not, your own confidence is bound to increase if you use the latest technologies. So definitely make it a point to use the latest technologies. Put a cap on the decision-making powers of the managing committee, that they should regularly report to the general body, and general body has to take decisions, and decisions should be linked to the quantum of within what time they will be implemented. That is also very much important. As far as the extra area that is being offered by the builder, it should be certified by the architect, because builders can promise you anything. So what I'm trying to say is, don't trust the builders blindly, because if you trust, you know what can be the outcome of the same. Do not give any signature to the builder until you get your development agreement as well as your individual agreement. The chances are, if you sign a paper, an offer letter or something, he will ensure that you pay him a very fat sum if you want him to part and you want to give this particular project to some other builder. Whatever may be his submission, do not give anything in writing, and take it in writing from him that no right vests with him till the development agreement is executed. Have
your own team of professionals. Don't allow them to take money from the builder. Have the offer very clearly mentioned that this is the maximum cap of funds that will be paid by the society to the professionals, which funds will have to be made available by the builder to the society, and society in turn will pay them. Tell the builder to give specifically written opinion on these various things: service tax, works contract tax, stamp duty, income tax. When you ask them in the written opinion, you will see how the colors will change. Now, learn a few things from the builder. 10% of the area is available for niche, drying space, etc., which is not included in FSI. If you are a good bargainer, if you know how to bargain, you should call upon your builder to provide open space in front of your flat so that when the building is redeveloped, there is sufficient space at least for your servant to stay there. By putting a grill, etc., you can utilize that space, children's cycle, etc., you can store it. The design of the building will play a vital role, and insist upon him to give some area in front of your flat which ultimately will be shared by you with your one or two neighbors only. There are certain types of items like society office, gymnasium, which are not included in FSI. In your own society today where you are residing, you can have one more room for society office as well as gymnasium. Of course, if today you have got an office, you are not entitled for a second office. But the gymnasium aspect is a recent aspect in the last 7-8 years. So most of the societies do not have gymnasium. If you can request your committee to take up this issue, definitely you can have one more room. And I am saying is this gymnasium for physical exercise is not to be implemented again on the society members or the members of the society. Practical aspects, every now and then tar is put on the road. So the height of the road, height of the road is increasing. Your building should be at least 1 feet above the road level so that as and when the tar increases, there is no problem of water logging for your societies. POP finish, the standard, if a good project management consultant is there, he will take precautions. But borewell, etc., get all these things done at the initial stage itself. Electricity meter, also 3-phase meter you should have, because sometimes we have seen that the builder hands over the key, you go and put install an AC, the electrician will come and tell you now again you change the wiring. So that 3-phase meter, etc., is very important for. When, as regards stamp duty, have the speaking order of the stamp duty liability that will come. That lien, I already told you, this thing on building completion certificate is vital. The date by which possession will be given has to be spelled out. No changes should be permitted in the building plan without your consent, because normally builders play with the same quite a few times. I emphasized on the parking this thing. One thing, in your old agreement, builder will show you 101 clauses favoring him. Don't get carried away by those clauses. Agreement is just a contract, a contractual obligation. Whenever there is a conflict between a contract and a statute, obviously the statute will prevail. And statute is providing you to such an extent that there are no words. Consumer forum is one of the best ways where you can ventilate your grievances. And believe me, friends, you can see a lion of a builder behaving like a sheep in consumer forum. It is only unless you go and see for yourself, you won't realize this thing. So consumer forum is the thing which will definitely help you a lot, and you should take advantage of the same if there is any problems pertaining to the same. Now,